Hello everybody, GL1 here. Welcome to the premier online toy museum. And lately a lot of dinosaur toys have been coming out and I wanted to go over the scientific classification of one of the categories of them first before I go into the individual toys. So three members of Abelisauridae have come out recently and those are Kryptops, and then we have actually Abelisaurus over here, which I had to order online. I haven't seen that in a store. And then Aucasaurus, which is another one that I've only seen one. I happened to pick that up in Walmart, and that's this fellow right here. And as you can see, they all fit into the category leading to Carnotaurus, which is a very popular dinosaur in the Jurassic World movies, and somebody over there at Mattel loves Carnotaurs because they keep making so many. But all right, so if we start going back 125 million years ago, that's when we get Kryptops, and that was found in Africa. And what we're going to find here is that these dinosaurs were found in either Africa or South America. And back during the time period when they were around, Africa and South America were connected. And if you note, as any kid who's looking at a globe figures out, it looks like a jigsaw puzzle, and they were all connected together. And they were. And then as it separated, it looks like some stayed in South America, well, most of them, and some in Africa, at least from what we've found. And then they speciated, and they changed to survive in their individual environments. So Kryptops was a pretty big dinosaur, 23 to 25 feet long. I couldn't get a weight on it, but you can bet that it's probably a couple of tons or so about 4,000 pounds. And then it branches off and splits, and there's different ways that scientists think that things could have split off. But then we got over here to Rugops primus, which was 95 million years ago, and that was also found in Africa. And that was 17 feet long and 900 pounds, so a lot smaller. And the toy, shows that it's a lot smaller. And then that kind of was its own line. Okay, it was related, but then became its own line. And one of the things that's similar about most of these is that they have short arms and 4 fingers. Although some have 3 fingers and some have fingers that are useless, most of them have some kind of shortened muzzle with not having little spikes over their eyes or horns, but definitely the short muzzle is common. All right, so another commonality to when they split. So if we move Rugops out of the way here, so we go from Kryptops, and then we have a couple of splits, and then that's where we have actual Abelisaurus, which is named from Abelisauridae, and that was about 25 feet long, but very thick dinosaur, anywhere from 5 to 7,000 pounds, and that was in South America. And then Aucasaurus, about 20 feet long and 1,500 pounds, so a lot more delicate. 3 million years earlier, so 83.5 million years ago in Argentina, so also South America. Now the toys, though, are about the same size. So whenever they do that, you could say, well, they're just not to scale, but you could also say, well, one's a juvenile and one's not. So that's, kind of what you end up having to deal with. A lot of times they do have adult scale dinosaurs, and everything really is to scale. And so then there was another fella that kind of started all the way back during the split of Aucasaurus and Abelisaurus, and then, came all the way up forwards to 75 to 66 million years ago. So this died out with the meteor that hit. So when all the dinosaurs died, Quilmezosaurus in Argentina, this little fella here, all right, also died out. And so this is you could see it has 4 fingers, all right. So, and very short arms. And actually, you can see that on most of them. They have 4 fingers. All right, well, going back again 100 million years ago, so we got Rugops at 95 million years ago. A little bit older than that is this Ecrixinotaurus, and that was 100 to 93 million years ago. So it survived for 7 million years, perhaps, which is very successful. 26 feet long and 1,800 pounds. So about the same size as Aucasaurus. And they made the toy about the same size. And you can see it looks a lot like Carnotaurus, and it has little horns, and you have that shortened muzzle. All right, well, splitting off from that is we have the Scorpio Venator, and 20 feet long, 2,000 pounds, so a little bit heavier, but about the same size. Also 100 million years to 89 million years. So that's 11 million years in Argentina. And I love this guy because it looks like kind of like a pit bull or bulldog. I mean, really shortened muzzle, heavy head, and there you go. You got your little fingers, but that one only has 3. So what I wonder is when they're making the toy, is it just like sometimes the fingers become useless and or they get really atrophied. All right, well, going back to where things split off before these 2 branches of the tree, you have Majungasaurus, and Majungasaurus is made pretty thickly as a toy. So that's 23 feet long, 2,000 pounds, and that's 70 million years to 66 million years ago in Madagascar. So that's, is an island now off of Africa, but was part of Africa. So now Majungasaurus has really short arms. You can see the 4 fingers there. And the muzzle's not quite as short, but you do kind of have horns over the eyes. So, staying in, with that kind of feature of an Abelisaur. And then Rajasaurus was also part of that split, and Rajasaurus 72 to 66, so also died out when all the dinosaurs did, and that was found in India. So they migrated 30 feet long up to 8,000 pounds, so big dinosaur. Not as big as a T-Rex, which is 12 to 14,000 pounds, maybe a little bigger sometimes, but Rajasaurus is the largest dinosaur here. You can see the muzzle again is kind of rounded, but not quite as short as the others. And let's see, and we got the 3 fingers on that. Okay, and then if we go all the way forwards, and these are, like I said, they're kind of simultaneous, some of them. So you have Rajasaurus in India, Majungasaurus, and Quilmezosaurus all dying out at the same time, and along with actually, Carnotaurus died out before them, but I put Carnotaurus in the front here because that's really like the first toy of these that was ever produced. So that's 72 to 69 million years ago. So the other fellas actually survived longer. So Carnotaurus was only around about 3 million years and 30 feet long and 4,000 pounds. So, maybe as long as Rajasaurus, but only half the weight, and that was in Argentina. And there's a lot of Carnotaurus toys, and some are much bigger than this one. I put this one out because I wanted to show that really it was in line with the same size as these other toys. Not really huge, like they've made pretty much all the other models, except for one, are just really big. But the thing about Carnotaurus is it did have the most prominent horns on the head, so like a bull. So Taurus like a bull. Okay. So let's go back and look at the toys individually and see just what's a little bit more detail on those. So the Kryptops was not as difficult of a toy to find, but wasn't super common. And this has a feature where you can move the tail around and you can turn the head, and then if you move the tail up and down, you got noise and you have the jaw snapping. And this is one of the newer toys. Again, what they're doing really right is a separate piece of plastic, flexible soft plastic for the teeth, textured tongue, and then you have these spines on the dinosaur that are flexible and just give it a lot more detail and also make it more recognizable, in your toy collection. You don't have the lateral movement of the hips, but you do have forward and back. You do have lateral movement in the arms and also a softer plastic that they're doing now in the arms. So that's kind of cool too. So yeah, so that's, like a $19 toy, $20 toy, something like that. All right. Then the other one, of this one I had to order a Abelisaurus, and I just think this is a really cool looking dinosaur. It looks, you can see that the head is very similar to Kryptops, but without any of the spikes. So, and the jaws are, similar, right? But more delicately produced. And, one of the things that when my wife saw Titanosaurus and it had those fins on its back and head and tail, she's like, well, how do they know it had that? And it's like, well, they don't, but they also don't know it didn't have that. I said, maybe some of these dinosaurs had fleshy pieces like a turkey or a chicken. And this is the first dinosaur I've seen that has that. So I think that's kind of cool. And actually, I thought that would bother me, but it doesn't. I think it looks pretty neat. So Abelisaurus is a pretty cool looking dinosaur. You got the new, teeth design, the textured tongue. You can actually see little taste buds on it. You don't have the lateral joint in the shoulder, but you have the flexible hands and big. If you'll notice, it has larger arms than the other dinosaurs and big claws. And look, you can even see the bicep and tricep there. You don't have the lateral movement in the legs as well. The same actuation though to play with it. So moving the tail up and down, back and forth. So, for tearing things apart. And also what's cool is the scaling is different on the dinosaur. And they have found that scales do vary on dinosaurs in different places. So look, you have the large scales in the front and sort of like these bead type scales behind it. So that's pretty cool. Another new one. Now this is another one that I've not seen anywhere else. I just happened to be in Target, and then there on the bottom of a shelf, kind of thrown in the wrong category of toys. It was not in the dinosaur area. Was Aucasaurus, and and really cool. So I'm like, oh, that's a cool dinosaur, So again, new, right? You got the teeth. Now these teeth are curved backward more significantly than our Abelisaurus. See, the Abelisaurus, they're more separated and straight down, but these are kind of like the razor kind of teeth that are made for cutting flesh, but also as they're pointing backwards, it's like once it bites down on something, if it tries to pull itself out, it's just going to pull itself more onto the tooth. So again, you can see the scales. You have the bead scales, and you have these osteoderms, which are like bone-like coverings in the skin, maybe for armor, and also maybe just for attractiveness for mating. Same actuation on the tail and everything, so that's, I like that. I like that you can, move the tail, have it bite, and turn it. But I also like when something doesn't have its mouth open all the time, and you can put the mouth where you want it. But, oh well. So you got 4 little stubby little fingers and stubby little arms. So, yeah, that's a pretty cool dinosaur. And then also you have this toe claw aiming backwards. And actually that's something that's also on Abelisaurus. So you can see that toe claw pointing backwards. So for, kicking backwards perhaps. But I think it's not on Kryptops. So if we look at Kryptops, you see the toe, it's pointing more down. I mean, it's back a little bit, but they didn't have it like sticking out or as spiky. I don't know whether this is, accurate. I didn't study everything to how accurate it is to what they found, but it's just, a difference in the toy. You can see actually that Kryptops has like scars from getting in fights. So a lot of fights for Kryptops. All right, so this one you might have seen before, at Kryptops. But this is a lot like just a small Carnotaurus, but I think in a way a little bit cuter. You have this really short little muzzle, and let's see, to actuate it, I believe, let's see, this one, you got to have a wheel, right? It's a wheel. So again, somebody at Mattel really likes the Abelisauruses because they put a lot of effort into making, giving them sound and motion, So you can rotate that wheel forwards and backwards, and you got this short stubby arm, and let's see, you do have the lateral motion. See how that helps in the legs? So it helps your dinosaur, find greater stability if you're having a hard time getting it to stand up. And look, you don't have the claw. It's not separate from the body. It's kind of just molded into the leg. I think it's just great, as I've said before with these dinosaur toys, that every single one, it's not like, just a different head and or the same legs or something like that. They really change everything. And look, this one actually does have some lateral movement on the arms too. So you have lateral movement in the legs and on the arms. I don't remember how much this costs, but it has more features than the other ones as far as, its articulation. All right, so Scorpio Venator. All right, so take a look at the kind of scales they put on this. Again, sometimes they do find imprints, fossilized imprints of scales, but I think that there's a lot of artistic licensing that they take with these things, as toys. What's interesting about this one is this guy's so lean you can actually see his ribs. So he's like really, I guess, on a low-carb diet. You do have the lateral motion here in the arms, and look, you can see the little bicep. And he's got short, stubby fingers, but only 3, not 4. And, you can rotate the tail. And let's see how this guy actuates. This is one where you push the legs up. And, yeah, he roars. The battery's he's going dead. But you can see you push that up. Now that, I have another one of these Jurassic World toys. I can't think of the name right now, but I bought 3 of them because they were like inexpensive and it was cool. They were looked like wolves, and 2 out of the 3 broke. That actuator broke. So I don't know if maybe they won't be doing that much because it's not a good, lasting actuation. So I can't, if 2 out of 3 broke for me, I'm sure they broke for a lot of other people too. So this is Majungasaurus, and there's an earlier Majungasaurus toy that is not as meaty as this one, but this is the meatier one. And let's see, you got the wheel again, and you got sound. So, so far, all of these, 12-inch dinosaurs have sound. And this Majungasaurus has, again, the separate teeth, but not quite as individualized, as you can see in the detail. But they do have different sizes, which is cool. And the plastic is a little bit harder. You get kind of that quick snap. But what's cool with the wheel is you can adjust to, where you want. If you want the mouth to stay open or closed, you can do that. So that's cool. You do have your lateral motion in the legs and lateral motion on the stubby little 4-fingered arms. So Majungasaurus is kind of cute, and if you'll note, also has a much smaller head than the other guys. So just probably not as fearsome as the other guys. All right, and then we get to Rajasaurus. And remember, this is probably the biggest one here. And look, you have these giant, big osteoderms and spikes on the neck, and horns and osteoderms. You got a big horn right in the middle of the head, probably, for good looks and banging their heads together to compete for mating. You have longer arms with good definition in the arms, and you can move, lateral motion. But now this is older, so the teeth are just molded right into the head. See that? And so they don't have, these are sharper, but you can see these are dull. That wouldn't be accurate. You wouldn't have dull upper teeth and sharp lower teeth. And that's what happens when you're just putting the teeth, molding them right into the head. Let's see. You don't have lateral motion on the legs, and this one also has sound, and you push the legs up. And the Majungasaurus toys, they came in 2 other colors. I do have them. Like one's brown, and I think one is kind of a lighter color. But I got all those. All right. Now we're going to get over to Quilmesosaurus. So this is such a cute little dinosaur. I think it looks like a T-Rex. Got a very T-Rex looking head. And you have the lateral motion in the arms. But you have 3 fingers, unlike a T-Rex. Or no, I'm sorry, 4. That's right. You got the little stubby finger there. And you have the toe claws aiming down. But it looks like a little T-Rex. And I like the way you can move the head all around. And you can push this button. Oh no, he's got a boo-boo. Oh no, he's better. Oh, he's got a boo-boo. So that's what happens to him. And that's on both sides. See that? And if we compare this with Rugops. So Rugops is, doesn't look like a T-Rex. But you do have that thick muzzle. They both have that thick, shortened muzzle. So that's, a feature of Abelisauridae. And this one, though, only has 2 fingers. I don't know how accurate that is because it's sort of like a T-Rex, but it's not in the T-Rex family. This is, and look at that back claw there. You got that real big back claw, and it's feathered. So Rugops, if you note, see, they made it that it's feathered. And they have found imprints of feathers with every raptor dinosaur. So they know that raptors were feathered. They're not like they were in the first Jurassic Park movie. And it's possible, of course, that dinosaurs had, feathers, like not being covered in feathers, but just like a feather here and there, for looks. But it seems that there were dinosaurs that were completely feathered. All right, and then finishing up the toys, we have Carnotaurus. And as I said, there's many Carnotaurus toys. This one here, they always give them these short little baby arms. And look, it's even got like its hand is separated, kind of like a person's hand with a thumb. But, this one doesn't have any lateral motion there. You do have the lateral movement in the hips. And this one, you push a button down and it snaps. So this one does not make sound, and it snaps. And Mrs. GL1 thought, I remember from a couple years ago, she thought that was really cool that it snaps. I find it a little bit limiting in it's so fast, if you're playing, because you can't like just have it open. It'd be cool too if you could turn his head. You can turn the tail, but it doesn't do anything with the head. But you could see his very prominent horns right over the eyes. And because this is older, you can see that the teeth are dull and they're just molded right into the head. And this one also is the only one here where you can actually turn the feet in and out to help it balance. So not only do you have lateral motion in the legs, but you can move the feet and really help get your dinosaur to stand up. All right, so there you go. That's Abelisauridae today. So, something tells me that because they love Abelisauridae so much at Mattel, that as, they probably will manufacture more of them, and maybe even, like, say, Majungasaurus, a completely different looking dinosaur that's the same name, like they've done with baryonyx. All right, well, I will talk to you later, and take care. Thanks for watching.